housekeeping items. So everyone is on mute. If you have a question, just type it into the question box at the bottom right-hand side of your screen, and we'll answer as many questions as possible at the end of the webinar. I also want to quickly introduce my company, Analytics 8, and our speaker, Darren Ball. So Analytics 8 is a global business intelligence consulting firm. We are partners with Industrial Codebox, who developed the QVSource product. We use QVSource to integrate social media data into QlikView. Today we have Darren Ball from QVSource who will show you exactly how to do this. Darren Ball is from Industrial Codebox, a leading QlikView technology partner that have been developing QlikView-related solutions for over 6 years. Today he's going to talk about their flagship product, as I had mentioned, QVSource, which is an innovative QlikView add-on that allows for a new kind of business analysis using social media. So with that, I will go ahead and turn the presentation over to Darren.
Thanks, Tracy. Yes, thanks for so much to attend this session today. So I'll talk a little bit about Industrial Codebox. We're a strategic technology partner. We've been with QlikView for like 7 years now. And as a partner of QlikTech, we've always strived ourselves to develop innovative add-on products. We don't really sell QlikView, but we do, through our product, support QlikTech and QlikTech partners in the installation of QlikView and these additional add-ons. So through the years, we've developed things like the QlikView Workbench and SharePoint Web Parts, which were required by QlikTech about 4 or 5 years ago. And as a result of that, because of our skill set, we've worked quite closely with the R&D team in Sweden in their sort of Lund offices. So through the years, we've developed many products and obviously get the knowledge of under the hood of QlikView. And so we're very trusted and experienced and well known within the QlikView community. So you know, if you talk to partners or QlikTech, they probably would have heard of us, especially being working with the product for a few years. And we work with many global partners. It's one of our foremost partners in the US. So as I mentioned, you know, we developed the Workbench and the Web Parts. We've also developed QVXL, which you can download for free from our website, qvxl.com, and that's to get QlikView content back into Excel for like pixel perfect reports like income statements and so on. And obviously QVSource I'm going to talk about today. So the bottom line is we basically specialize in getting data in there to QlikView in non-standard ways, I guess. So I want to talk about media, from QlikView and video, and just what social media is. Social media has been around for a long time, pretty much since the war started, with the group or with forums, and over the years it's become more ingrained in our lives, and we tend to Twitter and Facebook, things like YouTube, user sites, and there's some massive forums that are now kind of quite popular. Because social media is now an ingrained part of our lifestyle, from our handsets and our TVs and obviously our computers. It's actually a great platform to communicate with their audiences, and it's allowed to go to traditional websites, much easier conversation about your books and so on a social media platform, such as Facebook or Twitter. So a lot of companies are using social media because they kind of feel they need to be there. They've heard that there are, you know, close to 1 billion users on Facebook. You know, millions of tweets are sent, you know, every hour, every day, whatever it may be. And it's the place to be, but they don't necessarily know why they're there. They're just doing it because basically everyone else is. And although these platforms are free to use, there is obviously a cost to managing them, to ensure that there are people there to respond, to tweet, to post, whatever. And there's a cost as well when you get it wrong. In terms of benefits to business, obviously social media is, I guess, the modern word of mouth. Recommendations are the most powerful form of generating leads and sales, and social media is definitely the way that people will be influenced into making their decisions when they're making purchases and so on. So in that sense, every comment counts. Now, bringing that into the BI kind of spectrum, if you can't measure something, then how do you know you're using it effectively, and how do you know you're adding value to your brand, and how do you know that you're improving over time? So it's quite important to not do things fake. You should only really do things if you know the business will get benefit from that. And that's kind of BI is all about. Is all about. ClickView is testing, measuring, understanding your performance, and then sticking with what you're doing or checking what you're doing to make it better again. You know, adverse or favourable effects to your plan. And there's no reason why having a social media strategy should be any different. You know, if you are going to use Twitter and Facebook, it's better to understand, you know, how it's being used and why it's being used by your audience, and also understanding how your competitors use it as well. With ClickView and QV Source, you get a lot more insight into your business. All the benefits of ClickView: you get the rich data visualizations, the associative nature, the ability to ask questions and kind of investigate the data as you think of those things. Kind of works. But in the QV Source, you can now bring in external data much more easily. So you can now mix this with your internal data, so from your spreadsheets and SQL databases, whatever it may be, and now mix that with external information and get a complete holistic all around the business. Because you are using something like ClickView, and because of the way QV Source can regularly get data into your dashboards, you get consistency, which means you can then do the classic test and measure, just as you would for your performance, sales performance. If you're doing it the same way every time, you're doing it consistently in a timely manner, you can measure up as to handling better or worse than what you expect. Now, to ClickView, I'm not sure how many of you actually ClickView users, but ClickView, it doesn't really know that it's talking to Twitter or to Facebook. It's just getting more data. The QV Source part is doing that kind of end-to-end talking. And what it means as well is that now more parts of the business can benefit from ClickView. So whereas ClickView may be sort of focused on finance, you can now move that to customer service, to the webmasters, to quality control, to marketing of your business, and so it now has a much more kind of strategic part of your organisation. And if you've already bought ClickView, this obviously then extends the time and investment that you spend on the infrastructure, and it's obviously, you know, an incremental learning as opposed to complete new learning. So that's some of the benefits of using social media analytics with QV Source in ClickView. So to explain a little bit, yes. We can hear you, but you're cutting in a little bit in and out. I'm not sure if you're on speakerphone, if it would help if you pick up the phone, but we can hear you again, but it is a little fuzzy now and again. Okay. Actually, you're a little bit fuzzy as well when you were chatting earlier, so maybe it's the connection. Yeah. Okay, I'll try and speak a little slower and more clearly. So. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So this diagram shows where QV Source sits in the ClickView world. QV Source sits alongside ClickView, and as normal, ClickView can put in the internal data from your LAN or whatever it may be, so your SQL databases or your spreadsheets. And when ClickView is reloading, it will come across parts of the script that will request information from, say, Facebook or Twitter. And when it gets these parts, it will talk to QV, tell it what it needs. And then QV Source will then reach specific connectors to the platforms to pull out that data. So it may be that you want to find out, you know, what tweets are being said around a certain hashtag, or you may want to look for certain videos, or you may want to pull down all the comments and tweets from a particular public Facebook page. And QV Source will do this and bring it down to ClickView into sort of like ClickView-friendly tables. Now, there are hundreds of thousands of web APIs out there, and we only connect, or say only, we connect about 30, 40 APIs to our connectors. And we also an SDK, so with some moderate development skills, you can develop your own connector to connect to pretty much any other web API that we may not already connect to. We can also enrich the data, so we can take a tweet or take a Facebook comment or a comment on YouTube, and we can then run this through one of our sentiment or analytics codes. So the text goes to a third party, they're out there, computers will run the text to an algorithm and send back either a score for the sentiment, the mood, you know, a negative score for a negative mood or a positive score for a positive mood, or may pull out the verbs or adjectives or other key elements of the text. So you are actually turning unstructured text into numerical data or highlighting words that are of interest. And we can also do things as well, like with clouds, where we can take Twitter accounts and we can measure the influence of particular people. So you may want to identify Twitter accounts who are influential and who say good things about your products or services, or equally say bad things about your products or services. Because if someone is influential in Twitter, in the Twitter world, then when they say something, many people will listen and take a view of what's being said. So in many ways, you want to find those people and make them, sort of like an advertiser for yourself in that sense. So this is a Facebook fan page. It's a public page. QB Source can use one of its connectors to pull data down about this Facebook page. So we can pull down the comments or the posts. We can see how many people like the page, people are talking about the page. And if we do this on a regular basis, say every hour, every day, depending on how popular and how dynamic the page is, we can get an idea of the activity levels and understand what people are saying about that particular page. So this means that you can do competitor analysis, so you can look at yourself and your competitors and see what's being said about them. So for example, if you have competing phones, you can understand what they're saying about your phone and understand what they're saying about your competitors' phones, what they like, what they don't like. In Twitter, it's a bit different in that everything's public to Twitter connector performs based on text. So you may search for iPhone, or you may search for the Olympics or hashtag Olympics, whatever it may be, and the tweets are then pulled back into QB Source and then into ClipView. So from a tweet, you can pull things out, the media links that may be in there, any hashtags that may be in there. Again, you can get the sentiment. You can also see if there's any conversations going on. You can see who's tweeted and when it happened and even how it happened. And again, you can track, not only your own Twitter account, but anybody else's Twitter account. And of course, you can also pass these accounts through the clouds and then get, an influence score. So again, with this kind of connector, you can look at yourself and you can look at your competitors and other things that are of interest to you as an organization. So using just these two very simple platforms, you're able to now understand what people's view of your business is and what your products are, and of your competitors as well. To give you an example, on Twitter, there are many conversations on Twitter, and we can use QB Source to narrow down those conversations, get an idea of what's being said and the mood of those tweets. So we're taking down this kind of like massive information, and we're enriching the data and then we can get a clout score of those individual tweets, and again get an understanding of who's saying what and how it's being appreciated within the world. So you can take a simple, search term for, say, a web browser, and you can enrich that data and understand much more about the conversations that are taking place and make an informed judgment. So here's a dashboard of a QB Source-based application. This is looking at web browsers, sort of like Chrome, Firefox, and IE. And in this kind of dashboard, we're looking at the influence of the tweets. We're trying to understand, the clout score, the distribution of the clout scores, seeing, are more influential people talking about particular kinds of browsers and that kind of thing. You can also do side-by-side analysis. So here we have a Twitter and a Facebook track. So you can kind of compare side by side. So you don't need separate applications to look at separate things. You can bring them all together into one application and get a very holistic view of what's going on. So interestingly, on this screenshot, we have in the right-hand side we have the Facebook thread, and you can see a large peak of the red line, and that was the BlackBerry outage, back in October 2011. So that's a very real sort of crisis that took place, with the product. And if you look at the comments and the postings, you can see that throughout the morning, the frequency of complaints about the service were growing, and by midday, pretty much every single post was about the issue. And also people started criticizing other aspects of BlackBerry. I don't like this, that, whatever it may be. People were venting their frustration with the products and services. So, you know, it's rich pickings really for both BlackBerry and their competitors to understand what people like and don't like about their service. So we have many connectors, not just sites, but we have things like, you know, FreshBooks, which is an online bookkeeping system. We can bring Google Analytics or your Google Documents spreadsheets. We can connect to mailboxes. Connect the standards as well, like OData, so you can then bring SharePoint quite easily into your applications. And outside of Facebook and Twitter, we have things as well like blog search, where you can search news groups and forums. So there's lots of ways of lots of different data sources you can now add to your collection. Because at the moment, well, organizations are using online systems more and more, such as Google Documents or MailChimp for newsletter newsletter management, and a lot of the data is being held on external servers. So obviously, it's much easier for you as an organization. You haven't got to worry about software updates or about infrastructure. That's the provider's problem. But of course, the data is held on those systems. So something like QD-Source will allow you to bring that data that's being held from the third-party systems onto yours, so you can see what's going on. So these are our customers. A lot of European customers, you may sort of recognise things like Eurotunnel, which obviously manage the tunnel between England and France. And we have some media sort of companies as well. We have many more companies, but these are the ones that we kind of show the logos for. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of these sort of case studies to see how people are using. So who can benefit from QD-Source? Well, in many ways, guys, company. If you're a small business, then every single comment and review is important, and your online business can make a small business compete with a large company. So it doesn't really matter who you are, really, whether you're a single one-man business or you're a massive conglomerate. Your online presence is critical. You've got stores where, for example, Gap Clothing changed their logo. There was a Twitter outcry, and within a few days they've gone back to their old logo. So it doesn't really matter what size you are. What the voice of the people out there is very important to you. Whether you've got millions of customers or just a handful. So it doesn't really matter how big you are, basically. So how is QD-Source being used? So you mentioned earlier, manage the tunnel between England and France. They aren't really big social media users. They don't really use Twitter, but they use our Twitter connector to monitor search terms that are relevant to them and their competitors. So they can see if people are talking about delayed trains, or they're talking about the ports where the ferries are going across, and understanding what people are saying about other means of getting from the UK into Europe. So they're also able to respond in sort of real time to their customers. So they have examples where someone might say, well, the train's broken down, and someone's tweeting that we've been stuck for 2 hours and we haven't been offered a drink or anything, or there's a problem with the heating, and they can send a message to the train and then respond. So they can actually do customer service without actually really speaking to someone, just sort of being passive but reactive in the same way. They can also increase the rate that they monitor the situations. So they can click the applications to reload every hour. But if there's a crisis, for example, a train that is broken down or a tunnel shut, they can then increase the monitoring, say 15 minutes or 10 minutes, and then get very, very near real-time information, and then respond to it. So that's quite an interesting one. That's a company that's not really using Twitter, but they're using it to provide a better service for their customers. Zero Dutch Media, they have magazines and newspapers, and they want to discover trends across all their websites because they have many of them. And they found an almost impossible task. They were having to sort of like do manual downloads on a monthly basis. It was time-consuming. It was complicated. And it was an impossible task, basically. So they came across QD-Source, and they implemented Google Analytics, and they now get daily reports, and they can now get an enterprise-wide insight into their business. And this allows them to see what articles are of interest, and they can understand how people are interacting with their websites, and they can make better editorial decisions because of that. And they can also drive a better advertising strategy. For example, they understand better where people are going and how they're getting there. And because this is now done on a more regular basis, and the reports through ClickView are interactive, they're able to make, not real time, but very close to the event decisions and improving the website experience, whereas before they're waiting to the end of the month. So often the opportunity had passed. The City Council are in London over the UK, and they want to set up projects where they're monitoring what's being said across their borough, across numerous social media platforms. So as a council, they offer many, many services. You know, whether it's waste collection, it could be schools, policing, lighting, potholes in the road, whatever it may be, or parking is a big thing in London. So they can tweak QV Source, so flexible to add new search terms. So when there's bad weather and there's snow, they can then put in search terms relating to that. If they've got a festival on or a concert, again they can add search terms to QV Source to pull in these data, and when the event's finished, they can then take them out. So they can really be responsive and understand what people are saying across all of their services in the borough, which is obviously quite an exciting thing. One of the things they found was the Twitter. So looking at this, Westminster have just under 5,000 followers. But when they look at the followers of their followers, they realise that there were nearly 6.5 million second-generation followers. So that just kind of shows the importance of social media. If Westminster were to tweet something of interest and a large proportion of their followers retweet it, then you can see, you know, very quickly the message gets out to the wider population. So that, you know, that just shows really how important this stuff is. Hundreds of millions of page views per month, and massive amounts of data to consume, and they need to understand what's happening across their websites. In some ways, it's quite similar to early media, where previously it was quite a time-consuming and almost impossible task to understand what was going on across their business. Because although they're a free-to-use human site, obviously they generate income through things like advertising and so on. So what they have is QV Source and ClickView running every night. So when they come to work the next day, they have a scorecard, and they use that scorecard every morning to make business decisions based on what happened the day before, whether that's identifying issues or driving, you know, new editorial decisions on. So they use ClickView to bring, you know, data sources, SQL, XML, CSV, and so on, and then they use QV Source to hook into other things like Google Spreadsheets and Facebook and Google Analytics. So Lauren Blast at Cheeseburger said that QV Sources pretty much doubled their productivity and their analysis with ClickView. So that's quite a you know, quite an amazing sort of statistic really from their side. So you don't have to really be a social media user benefit source, because you have the ability to look in on others. Sometimes it's just important to understand what people are saying about your competitors as it is about yourself. We've taken the pain out of connecting to APIs, so we've really simplified getting the data. And because of the way QV Source works with ClickView, it means you're getting consistent methods of gathering that data, and it's very efficient. You're not spending time sort of getting the data and massaging and taking out the problems. They're there. It's just pulled down for you. And in the case of AD Media and Cheeseburger, you know, they can come to work next morning and there's the reports ready to go. So what it means is you can spend more time basically analysing your data and making proper decisions, and not spending a lot of time kind of, you know, preparing things. Because of the way you can now look at this kind of internal and external, you can now get a really holistic view of your business and its online position, which is of great value, I think, in today's climate, where, you know, every sort of comment is valuable. Again, because of the way that ClickView works, it means that reports are timely and relevant. So again, in the case of AD Media and Cheeseburger, they're getting reports the next day, pretty much within 24 hours, you know, of something happening. They are able to view it, find it, and make a decision based upon that. They're not waiting for the month end and waiting to see what happens. So so they're getting reports 5 or 6 weeks later. They're finding out hours later. So the success we publicly launched in March 2011, so almost 2 years ago. It's maybe the time's gone. We officially launched the product in November 2011, so just over a year ago. So it's had a lot of testing in that time, and the kind of interest in QV Source has been quite phenomenal in that time, and it continues to grow in interest for the ClipView community. So it exposes ClipView deeper into the business. As I mentioned earlier, more parts of the businesses can take advantage, and people rave about what it does. It's a very simple product to use, and it can have immediate impact and effect on your business. And we have hundreds of recommendations on LinkedIn, well over 100. We're the most rated product on ClipMarket, and we're selling from students to SMEs to enterprises, and we continuously developing new interfaces and connectors from QV Source to new APIs, and we're constantly working on ensuring that our connectors are up to date with the APIs. So people like what we do, like our support. In this, we've got some information so that people can get on with using the product and not have to fish around for answers. We take great pain in ensuring documentation of high quality. We've also taken a lot of time and complexity out of getting data. So again, you can just get on with analyzing, and we keep up to date with the APIs. So you haven't got to be technical. If you understand ClipView script, you can use our products and get working very quickly. We've got some free ready-made applications. So if you want to use Google Analytics, you can download the Google Analytics application, follow the instructions, and within a few minutes you can have a ClipView application with your Analytics data in there. Of course, you're leveraging all your ClipView investment and skills, so you're not starting from scratch. It's an incremental learning as opposed to completely new learning. So, and of course, one of the main benefits is that it's all in ClipView, and you get all the benefits of ClipView, but with more data. It's 8, or you can go to qvsource.com and download a free trial. As mentioned earlier, we've got lots of ready-to-go applications, or just ClipView social media, or QV Source, and you'll find us on Google. Or if you go to the ClipMarket, you'll find us on there as well. If you've been to the demo.clip, if you go to clipview.com and look for demos, you'll find the presidential election demo, which they did towards the end of last year, and that was using QV Source to search for terms on Twitter, and also we developed a connector for something called Taplo, and Taplo allows you to do text analytics, so getting sentiment and understanding what's being said and pulling topics out of prose, basically. So that's a really interesting application where you can kind of see, the topics that matter to the respective parties and their candidates, and what people are talking about. So that's a really cool application. It's online, so you can click around. There's explanations on how you can use it, on how the information was gathered. That's my email, and this was a Tracy from Analytics 8. Follow us on Twitter, and go to facebook.com/QVSource. We're on there. Like us and stay in touch with what we do. So that's QV Source. Are there any questions? No? Okay. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Darren, for presenting today, and thanks everyone for joining. We did record this webinar, so in case you want to listen to it later or share it with any of your colleagues. So I will be sending a follow-up email shortly after this webinar, so you'll have the link to the recording and also our contact information. So again, as Darren mentioned, in the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Darren or myself. You can also visit the Industrial Code Box website or the Analyst 8 website. So thanks again. Hope that everyone has a great day, and that concludes our webinar. Thank you.